We are very happy to collaborate with the Climate Group and with the Subnational Methane Action Coalition. We have already 22 provinces and states that are committing to methane reduction. Now, why it's important for the Global Methane Hub to support this work is because, especially in the area of waste, which is one of the second largest sources of methane emissions in the region, especially in Asia, the authority to make decisions on waste, be it waste sector policies, data and other advocacy that states can do for themselves, they do have their own authority and jurisdiction to do that, especially in the area of waste. So we really think this is an area where we have to leverage their authority at the state level, at the city level, at any local level and community level. So we look at food in a more like food loss and food waste perspective, and there is a slight distinction, but really capturing that methane is released or non-CO2 emissions are released across the value chain of food loss and food waste. So the challenge we're seeing is actually global, not just limited to low-income economies and countries, but of course the gravity is higher there. But what we're seeing is food loss and food waste happens equally in the global north and the global south. 1 billion tons of food is lost or wasted each year around the world, which actually adds up to an amount of land greater than the area of China. So you can imagine the magnitude. But we also know that low and middle income countries largely are also suffering from malnutrition and food insecurity. So from that perspective, according to WRI, 24% of world's calories are actually uneaten because of food loss and food waste. So that's significant when we're living in a world with the dire conditions. We also know that food loss and food waste contributes to 8 to 10% of global GHG emissions. And when you reduce that, when you reduce food loss and waste, you actually have the potential to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 20 to 25% by 2030. That's across the value chain, right from the farm gate to what's happening at the household level, the kitchens, the hotels, right to your landfill. This actually is also a win-win because it can also, reducing food loss and food waste can also help save economies 120 to 300 billion per year. So that's significant in terms of the economic benefit we can have from rescuing the food and the waste and giving it to, of course, like composting, food banks, treating it in a proper way so that the communities around, such as landfills, are not impacted by emissions because of the rising emissions rate from those landfills and because of various hazards from methane emissions because of, say, fires or other dangers. The other thing is waste workers and waste sector community is really important to engage in the narrative. And if you include them in the waste collection, segregation, institutionalize them, give them the fair jobs and benefits, we are seeing that in places and with partners where this has happened, you actually see a higher rate of segregation and separation because you give people better living and conditions to work. Hopefully they'll perform and be happy and retain those jobs. So that's where we're trying to engage, right from an environmental justice angle to saving and reducing emissions to also helping the economies thrive.